So, Pastor Patty, we both say this all the time about healing trauma, relieving pain, having your life be less dysfunctional, and those are all wonderful side effects. But the even more important piece is intimacy with Jesus. So there's a whole chapter I just finished on that. It hasn't got on the website yet. It'll get there eventually, but right now it's not anywhere except right here. So I'm going to do the 12-minute version of that chapter, or maybe the 18-minute version. So one piece. That whole intimacy thing started. I was doing a session with a person, and what was it? It was lots. I mean, this is someone who had lots of horrible trauma, and they were kind of complaining to me as far as like, why is this taking so long? Why can't this is hard? I don't like it. I'm tired. Why doesn't God just heal me quicker and easier and faster, whatever? And I said, can you still perceive Jesus? Oh, yes, I can. Great. Talk to him. Just another thing, whenever people have really hard questions, you coach them to talk directly to Jesus. And so she did. She did all this. This is so hard. Why is it taking so long? And I'm tired. And paused. And she said, Jesus says, I love my children, and I'm happy to relieve their suffering. But the most important priority, or the most important purpose, the most important goal for all this emotional healing stuff is to remove the hindrances between your heart and me. The most important purpose for emotional healing is to remove the blockages between your heart and me. This little teeny piece is in the Big Lion book. What I just told you so far is in the Big Lion book. And Outsmarted stuff, yes. And then from here on out is all new stuff. So that started because totally that had been me. I mean, as a psychiatrist, 0 people had ever come into my office saying, Dr. Karl, can I pay you to help me have a better relationship with Jesus? Nobody ever, it's never happened. They come in and say, I have panic attacks, they're horrible, can you please make them stop? I have depression, it's horrible, I want to commit suicide, can you please make it stop? I would fill in the blank. So I was totally like, the purpose of this healing stuff is to prevent illness and trauma and pain that's ruining people's lives. And when I discovered the whole Immanuel thing, it's like, if people can connect with Jesus, their healing process goes better. Jesus is a wonderful resource to help our healing work. And the session I just described you, that was the first time for me the light bulb went on. Both pieces are important. I just had them backwards. The most important piece is connection with Jesus. Wonderful side effect is healing, as opposed to the goal of healing isn't Jesus a nice resource. So he said, wait, you're almost there. You just got to flip these two. So that was the start, which was huge. So then some other pieces that are, there's some pieces in the chapter I won't get to, but several more things that are interesting. So a number of actual other sessions that all kind of totally reinforce that priority of intimacy. One, a person, she was doing really just courageous work, and you'll see this, the more you do Immanuel, this will be a regular thing, where a person will go to really deep, vulnerable, important places in their heart, places that are important, places that are painful, and they'll, in fact, this is something that as a coach, something I want you to learn to do is to help people be able to go to the deepest places in their hearts and share it with Jesus. And so I was in the middle of one of those sessions, and this was what particularly courageous woman just doing profound, poignant, personal, deep, intimate work. In the middle of that, Jesus looks her right in the eyes and says, I love it when you do this. I love it when you let me be with you in this place. I love it when you bring your heart to me. I mean, basically saying, I love it when you open your heart to me in this way. I love it when you share your heart with me like this. And it was really, both of us it was so clear and poignant and intense we both just stopped and we were like, wow, it's like that. He's really serious about that, isn't he? Well, there's another interesting session where a guy was, men, one of their biggest self-medication, if you've got pain or problems or emptiness in your life, and you're a woman, one of the biggest things is ice cream or shopping. For men, they tend to do the sex, pornography or other problems with relationships. So this is a guy who did the pornography, strip bar kind of thing. And so he was in a memory, one of his huge shame memories was being in the strip bar. And I was like, oh, well, let's do Immanuel there. Well, I mean, sort of you can kind of see, like, he's like, oh, the last place in the world I want Jesus to be with me is when I'm in the strip bar. I mean, isn't he going to be upset? Isn't he going to be horrified? Isn't this is... And it took quite a bit of work to get him to even be able to talk to Jesus about the whole thing. And Jesus' first response was, like, yeah, that's I'm sad about that, and I want to help you learn something different. But what really hurts when you go to the strip bar is you don't let me come with you. He said, what really hurts me is whenever you do that, you don't let me be with you. And we were both just like, wow, that's another one of those, like, flip the priority. We're like, oh my gosh, you're bad, bad, bad. And and it affects your relationship with Jesus. He was like, well, I mean, that's a problem, and we'll get to it. But like, what really hurts is this affects our friendship. You don't let me be with you when you go there. So that was one of those, just like, wow, we were both just kind of like, wow, that's important. Okay, third interesting one. This was one of my interesting experiences. So I was, let's see, how did I come up without Kleenex? Oh, right here. Every time I ever speak, I cry, and you'd think by now I would think to have Kleenex. So I was doing, I'm always experimenting with how to do manual wherever I am. Of course, it's the ideal situation is when you're in a place where you're not having to dodge cars, you can close your eyes. You don't. Like if you're on the highway, so if you're sitting down with somebody in a quiet place where you're not distracted and you won't it's not dangerous to close your eyes. That's ideal. But there's things you can learn to do, like if you're out doing your exercise walk or if you're driving, whatever. You just have to think about how to not get in a crash or get hit by a car. So anyways, I'm always kind of thinking about how to do a manual in different places. And when I'm doing my exercise walk, I have some weights and I'm out walking by the lake, and so I do a little grateful, invite your presence, and it's sort of another level of skill to be aware of the Lord's presence and have an interaction while there's other people, there's bicycles going by, and you have to watch for cars. And it takes another level of skill and attention and all, but it's possible. It's sort of another level of skill to be able to do it. So I'm doing all that, and I kind of have the sense of Jesus' face, and it's Friday afternoon. It's a beautiful day, down by the lake. It had been a good week. I'd been watching Jesus heal people, so I was just like, gratitude was easy. I was like, oh, that was cool. The whole week was cool. This morning was neat. That was so amazing what you did with that, in that session. I was, like, this is so easy to be grateful, and I could sense the Lord's presence, and he's kind of smiling. And one of my childhood pain things is just not having any friends really at all. Any real friends through my childhood. And so there's times when I'll be doing this kind of Immanuel piece, and part of the experience, it feels like he's just enjoying being with me. It's not healing. It's, there's other stuff you do, guidance or healing or whatever. But sometimes he's just like, yeah, this is a beautiful day, and like, yeah, that was a fun week, wasn't it? And well done, Karl. And just kind of this gut feeling is, he just enjoys being with me. And that just, with that friendship wound, it's just whenever I feel that, it just kind of resonates with a place in my heart. I'm just kind of like, wow. I just appreciate, so I just kind of had this thought, Lord, it means so much to me that you want to be my friend. And this immediate is one of the clearer, sort of striking kind of responses from the Lord. Usually my Immanuel stuff is very subtle, and I have to kind of squint and just really concentrate to be able to, I think this thought just came, I think it's from Jesus. This is one of those kind of just really just clear, just not like spoken words, but just this clear, I just immediately kind of knew, sensed back from him. he was way more excited that I wanted to be his friend than I was that he wanted to be my friend. Which is, that's like, it's like, oh, Jesus is my best friend. I mean, Young Life Camp, it's like, you could think that's corny. I heard that 5 times last week in Young Life Camp. But it's also true. And, I mean, it's like the crazy thing. I mean, some people kind of, it can be an emotionalism thing where everybody around the campfire is saying the same. I mean, there are ways you can kind of say that and not even know what you're talking about or not have it be real. But it also can be true. And if you, like, Jesus, the Son of God, Master of the universe, really is your best friend. That's just crazy. And that, at that moment of interaction, which, like, I mean, I'm aware of all this, I've heard this, people say this my whole life, oh, Jesus is my best friend kind of thing. But it's like, at that moment of, that response from Jesus about, like, and it wasn't, like I said, words, it was just this, the truth just was in my heart instantly. Like, he's way more excited that I want to be his friend than I'm excited about him wanting to be my friend. And in that moment, that felt so kind of poignant and real and new. It's like, at that moment, I had forgotten that anybody else had ever said, Jesus is my best friend. So that's, so another little piece of that chapter that is like the greatest commandment, the first 2 commandments are love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and your neighbor yourself. That whole the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. To me, I think that's consistent with intimacy, like a personal relationship. Intimacy is important. That's not talking about obey the rules. I mean, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. To me, that kind of is, that's, my wife actually has a really cool sermon that makes a very good argument that the only real way to understand that is that emotional love, that this personal intimacy relationship thing is actually a part of that, not just obey me. So that's like a big one. So like there's all this stuff about biblical reasons, scripture reasons why we should prioritize intimacy. And to me, one of the kind of crazy ones is that Jesus desires that and treasures that in a way that most of us just can't wrap our heads around or hold on to. And that to me is the fact that Jesus says, like, if you want to give me a Christmas present, prioritize our personal friendship relationship. If you actually want to thank me, if you want to do something for me, if you want to give me a Christmas present, I was going to say a birthday present or a Christmas present, but for him it's the same. So if he would say, if you want to give me a gift, that just occurred to me right now. I couldn't decide whether to say birthday or Christmas. And I was like, oh, two for one. So he would say, if you want to give me a present, like get the seminar on Immanuel lifestyle and do all those things so that you actually systematically build intimacy with me over time. Which to me, that's kind of a big deal.